How to troubleshoot a Kirby Avalir, trying to figure out why it does not work. So the other day I plugged in the vacuum to use. I was using the hose. I since have changed to this head, but I plugged it in, turned it on, went to hit the switch, that light flashed, and then everything died. Nothing worked. So right now I have my cable there. I have it plugged in. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys. There's nothing going on, no activity going on there. My first thought was maybe I had shorted the circuit, something to do with electrical. So here I have a heat gun. Gonna go ahead, plug it into the same outlet, and gonna go ahead and test it. So the heat gun works, the vacuum doesn't. That tells me there's no issue with the outlet, with the power supply. The issue is with the vacuum. So the next thing I did is, I was thinking maybe there is a cut or something in my my power cord. I went through, checked everything, making sure there was no nicks, no cuts, nothing like that. Everything looks good. The next thing that I did was I checked the connection to make sure that everything fit. That's why I switched from my hose to this connection here, just making sure that everything in there is working properly, that it's getting enough pressure, which it was doing before. So I just wanted to double check that by switching to this head. So the next thing that I did is remove the head. There's a couple safety little features that if your equipment is not assembled correctly, you'll have issues using it. One of them being if this piece here is malfunctioning. You guys can see the bottom one presses without the top one. And when you press the top one, both of them go in. Make sure that is functioning properly. The second thing is if you don't have the bag on right, if you don't have the bag installed correctly, it will give you issues. So what we're gonna wanna do is I'm just twisting it and popping it off. There is a lever that is in here, and it's gonna go ahead and try to show you guys. Right in here, there's this lever, and if this lever is broken or not working, we will have issues with it starting up. It won't turn the vacuum on. You guys can see that lever right down there. Mine slides and it works good. So that needs to be working as well. And if that is working, and you have your vacuum bag installed properly by having this notch lined up with this notch, press down, and as you're pressing, it'll slides and clicks, and you will notice that that notch gets moved a little bit in order for it to fully take off that safety feature. So if you have that installed correctly, we're going to be starting to disassemble. So go ahead and we'll start off by taking off this bag. And we'll be taking apart the bag like we did just before, just by twisting it, and it should pop right off. And now that the bottom is unhooked, we're going to be coming over here, pressing and sliding the bag out of the way. So now that fully removes the bag, push on this button lever, slide it down, takes this bag off, set it off to the side. You will need it later when you're reassembling. The next step will be to remove this long handle. First things first, we're gonna wanna get all of these wires unhooked because the wire cannot stay with the handle. And once those are out, all you have to do is there's a little button down here. You can go ahead, hit that button and slide up. Just like that. I was able to get it with one hand. Now get that set off to the side as well. So the next step is going to be to take off this cover here. I will be using a T25 Torx, a T25 bit, and taking out this screw right down here at the bottom. And once the screw has come out, I will be using a flat head screwdriver, a little pry bar type, something big enough to get in here and pry this up to remove this. And I just pulled up as I was prying on it, came right out. Got to shake it a little bit and pull back, and this piece comes out just like that. So next we're gonna be taking off this top cover here. We're gonna start with these two screws back here. We will also need to take off two of them that are in the front. Starting with these, both of these are T25s as well. And when you're taking these apart, be sure to save the screws. I like to set them off to the side in the same direction, in the same way that I took them off. So whatever comes off first, I put in a little line, a little slot, just so I know when I go to, as I'm disassembling, first thing to come off, second, third, fourth, fifth, as I go all the way back. And that when I go to assemble it, I just go backwards, and I know the way that everything fits. So keep that in mind. So we got these two out. Now we're just gonna go ahead, come over to this side and take these two out. And once we take these two out, then we should be able to take that top off. And now that we have those two off, we're going to want to come over here to the side and take these off as well. And you will need to change out for a T15 to get this portion for the cable that holds the cable down. These are T15s, and once these are off, we will be able to remove that top cover there. So just like that, we remove those, and this cover then slides right up and comes off. So now that we got the cover off, next thing we're going to be looking to remove is this on-off switch. It'll slide more or less in this direction, kind of towards us. I'm just going to go ahead and use something to kind of pry, lift it up with. It's not screwed on with anything. And then from here, I will kind of put this in a little position to where I'm able to lift this all the way up and slide this off. As you guys can see, they got like little hands, little hooks that just kind of lock in there. So that is what comes off next. And next we will be taking off this cover, I guess this top piece with this whole unit right here. We're gonna be taking that off. It's held on with 4 screws. We are going back to the T20, and we will start by taking out these screws here in the back. And once again, when you're taking these out, make sure you're putting them or marking them so you know which screws came from the back side, which came from the front side. There will be differences. Some of them might be pointy, some of them might be flat. So keep that in mind. You want them to go back in the same location that you got them out of. So the way I lay it out, I try to label front, back, and that way I know what's coming out the front and what's coming out of the back. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn this guy. And then in order to get this off, this unit that we're trying to take off, we need to take out these screws as well. So there's 2 of them here in the front. Let's go ahead and take those out. And then we're going to go ahead and disconnect the wiring here. There's one that goes up on top and one that goes on the bottom. All I'm doing is just pulling back. Top one came out. And then for the bottom one as well, I'm just looking to pull back on it to slide it out. As you guys can see there, that one came out. And that bottom one came out as well. And slide this right off. And when you're pulling them out, just make sure you know where they're going. You kind of see the holes so you know where they're going when you are putting those back together. So next we're going to be taking this unit out here. Go ahead and flip the vacuum over. Before we do, make sure you are in drive. Make sure it's locked in drive. If you are in neutral, make sure to switch that over to drive. Locks the gear in place. Go ahead and flip this over. We will be taking out these 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3. 1 on each of the tires. They are T25s. We will not be touching the one in the middle. We don't need it to disassemble this. So if it's not needed, then I guess don't do it. Why do the extra work if you don't have to? So just these 3 screws, 1, 2, 3. As you guys can see, it's already starting to come apart. I'm gonna hold this in its place, flipping this over. We're gonna be taking this belt off, and just like that, this should, once we lift this up, once again, in drive, gonna go ahead and lift this up, and out of the bottom comes the tires with a little transmission, little motor there. So the next thing we're going to be doing is checking out the brushes. So we're going to be unscrewing that and that there and that there. And those appear to be a Phillips bit. So go ahead, take your Phillips screwdriver And we'll go ahead and loosen this one first. And we will take a look to make sure that our brushes are still good. Once again, keep track of all your screws. And our brushes still look good. So as you guys can see, this these brushes on this side is good. If they are short, probably half that length, I would be replacing them. This is about a 4 or 5 year vacuum, somewhere around there. So it doesn't have that much use to it, mostly hardwood floors at my place. So they get used in a few rooms occasionally. So they don't have that much wear on them. I'm gonna go ahead and check the other side to make sure that that one is good as well, making sure that they are wearing evenly. And the way that they come out is by twisting the bottom side. I guess a little backwards on this side. So it twists out and then you can slide it back. And just like that, it pops out. And as you guys could see, full, quite long piece there. Spring still working. And another thing that I did not mention is if this belt is ripped or torn, your vacuum will also not be working. It might turn on, might make noise, but it will not be spinning the brushes, spinning anything. So if that is torn, you will need to replace it. Another troubleshooting thing. Should have mentioned that when I was taking that little transmission back there off. So as you guys can see, mine is working both of this. So my next culprit that I'm going to be checking is checking out this on-off switch over here off to the side. Before I do, I'm going to go ahead and just replace these, put these back in. Push the graphite in. With this one on the left side with the screw on the bottom, the pin comes in first and then you slide the back in and then you screw it down. Just going to go ahead and leave that in position and screw that back down. So pretty much the opposite side of the screw goes in first. All right, to start taking this on-off switch out, first thing we want to do is disconnect our power. Right here on the side, we will be looking at a, what is the same, the T20 that we had. Go ahead and just take that switch out. So this is just a cover. We got to remove this cover and then we will unhook the switch. So let's say you did have, so there are a couple different clips. There's a clip that clips on the bottom and there's two on the sides. I'm going to be pushing them out away from here. Those have removed. I'm able to wedge it and pull it off. So if you're inspecting your line and your line is cut, chipped, cracked, something, whatever you want to replace it, you know, maybe this piece right here, since it's in a position where it might be moving around, might have gotten damaged, whatever the case is, at this point, all you got to do, slide out and it unplugs and you're able to order a whole new power cord for the vacuum and it'll just plug right back in there. That is that power supply. So for me, my two options is either my power supply or my on-off switch is bad or I burnt up my power cable. I'm going to go ahead and replace this first just because I turned it on, it flickered, and then it died. So it could be either of the two, but I will be looking at this when I pull it out. So once we have it out, disconnected the power line. Once again, making sure to keep everything together and in a step-by-step position to where when you're assembling it, you will be able to take it back apart or put it back together. Next, we are looking at this screw right up here at the top. We will be removing that because that is also holding it in. And at this point, it might be, you know, a little stiff since I have this lever here. It'd be a little tight, but it does come off. It does slide out. And then right here, we'll be pulling these two apart. And once again, make sure to note where they are going. If they're on the top or the bottom, you will need to know that when you are connecting them back up. So this one that comes out from the bottom is from the top. This one that came from here is on the bottom side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and move those. And then just a little bit of wiggling around. Looks like I'm hitting on this brush. So I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this brush one more time. get the brush out of here and let me freely remove my on-off switch. Just like that. Got that removed. Once again, keep track of everything, every single screw and where it goes. You will need to know all this stuff for when you start assembling it. So here is my switch. And so here we are, we got the replacement part in. Here it is. And this is our original part that I suspect is not working. Go ahead and start assembling it, putting it back together. We're gonna have to finagle with it, kind of play with it, especially getting this first piece in. So with the install of this guy, just be very careful. Keep in mind you got some electronic type stuff that need to get connected up over here on this end with the little prongs sticking out there. Go ahead and send this in with this portion first. I kind of dive it down and get it into location down there. Make sure all the other electrical stuff is out of the way. And I just slowly work it in there, dropping this side and getting it to go forward. Don't force anything. If it feels like it's too tight, chances are something's wrong. Double check the prongs that are back here that you're supposed to line up when you put them in. Make sure you're clearing this top portion that's over here. So keep that all kind of together. Line this up here. Make sure this is down. And as I go, I'm just working it kind of up and down. I'm not forcing it. If you have to jam it, slam it, double check those pins, pull everything back out, and double check those pins. So now that we got this guy in, we're going to be adding this screw right there. So we got our screw, Phillips screw, little short guy. Once again, if you keep everything in order when you're putting it together, doing the reassembly will be a lot easier. And then at this point, we can go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and we can, I guess I'll hold that off on that. I'll be adding the brushes, putting the brushes in. There we go. Start with that other side first, get it located, and then the side that has the screw comes in second. Once again, this is a Phillips screw. So we'll go ahead and get them in there. Now that that's on, we will be installing these. So the one that from the brush goes to the bottom, and this one goes to the top. I'll just move them around here. This one goes to the top, this one goes to the bottom. Getting those installed. So the next step is going to be to put this piece on here. And just getting it on is a little tough. You got a little finagling, little fighting to do, just with tight spaces. So if you think putting in that on-off switch was testing your patience, try this one. So with this one, there's some flats on here that we will be needing to be careful with. So these flats on the top face the outside, and the top is the shorter one of the two. So you can go ahead and just slip that one right in there. Just making sure it's nice and in there all the way. This piece, it will be facing out. There's like the smooth flat side I've been putting towards the inside. I've been going over this rope and in between the two, and then that fits down that way. And then to get this one in, this bottom one, it's a little bit of a fight, but just with some finagling, just some finger work, it is possible to get it in there. Just want to get it in there, make sure it's seated all the way before I proceed. We will be adding the 4 screws. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 2 back ones are these shorter ones that look like this. The 2 that go to the front are a little longer and they look like these. So there's that, and let's go ahead and get these on. You might need to apply some forward motion if you're starting with the back ones. And I'm just going to go ahead and get these somewhat started. Get them a little ways in. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the front. I'll make sure that these are in nice and snug before I go and tighten up the back ones, because these ones will pull it forward. Okay, got those two on. Be swinging back here to the back side and getting these back ones into position and screwed in. Okay, and now that that's on, the next piece that we will be working on is getting this transmission in. It'll come in from the bottom. A little bit of finagling to go with this as well. And then right here, making sure that this piece fits through there. We will also need our belt on there. So if you have not inspected your belt yet, go ahead and inspect that. And I'll have to drop this a little bit to get this belt on. Spin that on, and holding the back, you can go ahead and lift it. And I got these 3 screws. We'll go ahead, order doesn't really matter, they're all the same. As long as you kept track of them, you should be fine. And next we will be installing the on-off switch. First things first is I'm going to go ahead and hook it up to this little push-in area, and then I will lower that. And from here we got these 2 claws that look like that. They'll just slip right onto there. Just like that, we have our on and off switch now installed. Time to put on the cover. So the cover will go on right up here. I just go ahead, slide it all the way forward, and then just slowly work it down. Once that's on, the screws look like this. These are the back screws, these are the front screws. 2 back screws go here. The front screws will then go in, 2 of them, one here and the other on that side right there. And now it is time to replace the cover, and we got our little screw. We should have kept with it. When we get this, slide it in up in this area, and then from here just go ahead and push down. You heard the big knock, it clipped in. Now we got to put our screw down here in at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and get that in there. And now it is time to get our power plug back up into our vacuum. So what we're going to want to do is I'm going to get this one on here first. This is with the smaller T15. So we get the T15 on there. Once we have that in, we can go ahead and plug in the power cable. Next is going to be the power cover. So go ahead, set this on the side so we can see it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off on the thing in underneath first, push this over and slide it in. So first I started getting the bottom in, push this in and slid this back, and now we have a hole here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this screw in. And that's going to be a T20. And now it is time to get our vacuum bag on. So we can go ahead, take this, put this stick in, put it straight up and down. It should click in. And now that we have that, go ahead and swing your bag over. And then with the bag, we're having the notches looking like that. Set those in place and twist forward. You'll feel it knock. There should be some lines that line up. And now it is time to test the vacuum. So I went ahead and added my attachment, just added on a hose, just so that sensor there is covered. The bag is on, time to test it. Just like that, we got our vacuum back. So there you guys have it. Got my vacuum back up and running. With these Kirby vacuums, there are really only 3, I guess possibly 4 big components that could go wrong. The first one being that power cord. If it looks good, if it got nicked, if it got yanked out of an outlet, got torn, it is depending on the situation, you know, what happened before the vacuum died. Maybe there's an issue with the plugins, double check that. The number 2 thing, especially if it's older, you know, 8, 10, 12 years, I would definitely be checking those brushes, especially if the vacuum gets a lot of use. I would be checking those brushes out, making sure that those are good. And if not that, then the third option would be to check that on-off switch like I did. And then the fourth option would definitely be the motor. That would be the last thing. And even then, I don't know if the motor would be worth replacing at that point. Finding parts for it might be a little bit tougher, but if that's the case, just look for a replacement or somebody's already damaged vacuum on social or on like Facebook or Craigslist, wherever on the marketplace. So check those out. But there you guys have it. Those top 3 things to check, and you can hopefully get your vacuum back up and running. Thank you guys all for watching. If you guys have any comments, questions, go ahead, drop them in the comment section below. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. And if I can answer any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks. See ya.